Effective sediment management is important for river ecosystems because sediment provides the building blocks that create physical habitat. There are three approaches to manage sediments in rivers with impoundments: to reduce sediment yield, to route sediments through or around impoundments, or to remove sediments from upstream of the impoundment and reintroduce them downstream. Reducing sediment yield in the upper catchment is all about thinking about where sediment is generated. So doing some mapping, walking along the river network, finding out where sediment is coming from is really crucial. Increasing the planting of trees in a catchment, both close to the river itself to reduce bank erosion, but also more broadly across the upper catchment as well to reduce sediment yields, perhaps on steeper slopes that might be vulnerable to landsliding.
There are some other catchment scale sediment management practices which also have climate change benefits. For example, peatland restoration can retain water in the soil, which prevents us from reaching the rivers and thus reducing their peat flows and therefore their energy for moving sediment. We've also got woodland planting and riparian planting, which is basically just planting vegetation along riverbanks. These have the amazing benefits of capturing water into the soil, again reducing the amount of water going into the river, but the roots can create complex systems which keep the sediment in and prevent erosion, and that basically can also reduce the amount of sediment getting into the river.
There are two options to route sediment at impoundments: either to bypass the impoundment and have a separate channel that routes that sediment around the impoundment, or secondly, the other option is to actually route the sediment through the impoundment, for example with a sluice gate. There are two approaches that we can take to remove sediment: either hydraulically, using the power of the river flow to remove that material, or through dredging. If we adopt an approach that uses dredging, it's really important to think about how we reintroduce that sediment to the river system, and we might want to map suitable places downstream from the impoundment so that the river can then remobilise that sediment during moderate or high flows.
When we were in the design phase, I think on hindsight we didn't give enough thought to sediment management and how we remove it. It's been one of those things that you just assume will be done at the operational phase. I've never appreciated the importance of sediment transport down the river to the downstream environment, and particularly with a reservoir, when you're blocking the sediment for years, it clearly is an issue that needs to be dealt with.
Proactive sediment management, we think, will lead to better environmental outcomes and very possibly better economic outcomes for the operator. If we were able to offer some advice to the operator community, it would be to think proactively about their site and sediment management issues, take a long-term view of how the site is likely to be impacted by sediment supply, come to speak to SEPA or NatureScot if relevant as early as possible in the process of planning a new scheme or varying an existing scheme.
I hope that the river practitioner community can realise a proactive rather than a reactive approach to sediment management. This would be win-win for the environment, for regulators, and for impoundment owners and operators.